I hate Insta love. I hate Insta love. I think it's awful. I think it's boring. I think it's easy to write Insta love because like you don't have to prove it. You just write it and all of your writing just continuously says, trust me bro, trust me bro, trust me bro. I don't trust you because you guys keep letting me down. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and this is Shelby Reads, where we talk about sapphic books all day, every day, all year round. For those of you new to my channel, my name is Shelby and I am a femme for butch lesbian and a dedicated goth. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe so you can hear more about sapphic books and support a tiny little lesbian who wants to move away. Today we're going to be talking about Finding Her Home by Annie Weist. This is a contemporary sapphic romance, but it does take place on a ranch. Because it's a novella, I'm not going to read the synopsis like I usually do, just because I feel like it ruins almost the whole thing whenever you do it for novellas, so like there's no point. This is the part where I tell you I don't remember there being any triggering anything. However, I might pop back in and tell you guys what's up. I just genuinely don't remember anything. I don't remember much about this book, and you have to cut me some slack because I'm a grieving widow, okay? My ex might not be dead, but she's sure as fuck dead to me. So have a little grace, have a little compassion. My first queer breakup after being together for 13 years is pretty fucking rough. So, okay, trigger warnings are very minimal. I would say mentions of animal cruelty, not shown on page at any point, just a mention of it. Homophobia and stalking. I'm only semi-serious about the stalking, but I feel like it does fit under the definition, so I don't know what to tell y'all. Disclaimers. Number one, this review is not for the author, fans, or stands of this author's work. I did not really enjoy this book, so you will not like what I had to say. We're just mostly trying to have a fun time, you know, complaining about books we just happen to not like. Number two, this review will contain all the spoilers, so if you want to read this novella, it's only 133 pages, so go read it, then come back. Listen to me gab about it. Number three, I'm not bashing sapphic books. I believe that we deserve varying qualities of sapphic books. However, I'm allowed to complain about books I don't like, just like straight and bisexual people are allowed to do that also. And just because it wasn't for me, it doesn't mean it won't be for you. Not all of the books I read are morally reprehensible or just offensive like the Sapphic Inquisition, okay? And with that being said, let's get started. So the two love interests of this book are June and Stevie. Just so you're aware and so I can keep reminding myself in my brain. We start chapter one with June. We start the book off with June, who is working on her ranch. She's hammering in a fence and she's getting very irritated because she keeps hearing cars, because she hates tourists. And as somebody who lives in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, I agree. Get out. Why don't you make your own place better instead of just mucking up our entire life? Just saying. And this is a horse farm. Okay, so we're gonna find horses here.
Randall, there is a cow outside.
There's a cow farm. You're gonna find cows outside.
But then the car door slams shut and she's trying to ignore it, but someone comes up to her and says, excuse me. And she's like, I'm looking for someone who can help me with my horse situation. And June is like, well, I guess at least she didn't start immediately asking for the Wi-Fi. And then this woman continues to talk and she's like, hey, I'm sorry, I know you're working, I know you're busy. She's like, but I've been writing since I was 8 and I'm really not interested in some of the like very beginner stuff you guys do here. Do you have anything more challenging? And June thinks to herself, every single guest says that, which I'm sure not every single, but I understand what you mean. Way too many people probably think they're confident on horses when they're not. She's like, what do you mean by challenging? You know? Also, this is in Colorado. I've never been to Colorado, so I can't speak to the accurateness of a lot of this. Just so we're aware. And she says, I can handle a green horse on a narrow mountain trail. Do I know what that means? No. Am I gonna look it up? Also no. Like, it's fine. But she's like, yeah, I don't just do arena riding. So, and June is like specific, different. Most guests say that they can ride really fast. Not like Other Girls strikes again. Hello. I do feel like horse girls are kind of the Not Like Other Girls final boss though. And I do feel like they are the final boss for like manic pixie dream girls. And you're like, Shelby, why? I'll tell you why. Because it might seem charming getting into it, where you're like, oh, this girl loves horses, it's everything to her. But then if you get with her and you start having to take care of the horses, pay for the horses, do all this stuff with the horses, you might decide, oh wait, I thought this was just like a quirky interest that you did sometimes. No. I grew up in a family of a lot of horse girls, okay? Inaccurate. And then June is testing her, literally says she's testing her in her brain, which again, I feel is a bit rude, simply because like, I know that tourists are really annoying, but you probably shouldn't assume everything about everyone, okay? But she asks if she can ride Western or English, and this woman says both, but Western makes more sense out here. And she's like, English is pretty, but it won't help you when you're navigating scree at 9,000 feet. And she then explains that those are loose rock slopes. And she says, I learned that the hard way. My friend's horse knew what to do, and I just had to trust him, not be an idiot about it. And then there's one more test of like, do you know the difference between neck reining and direct reining? And then she explains the difference. We're here for the romance though. Like, I don't feel like most of us on this channel are here for the horse girl stuff, which is, I love horse girls. I love Tina Belcher, okay. And she's like, okay, so can you assign me to any of the advanced rides? And June tells her, I don't assign anything. The ranch manager handles the assignments. And this woman is like, okay, but you clearly know horses better than anyone here. What's your name? And she's like, I'm June. And then the other woman is obviously our other love interest, Stevie. I actually don't mind this meet cute, simply because it's a meet cute that actually makes sense for once. Stevie. It fit, had music in it somehow. June's mouth wanted to test the shape of it. No, absolutely not. I agree, no, absolutely not. Like, is that offensive? No, but like, why are you gonna pretend the name Stevie is musical? I'm not falling for that. And Stevie's like, hey, can I like help you while we talk? Like, it's nice to meet you. And she's like, guests don't do ranch work. And she's like, I'm not like most guests. I grew up around farms and my hands know their way around tools. And Stevie just like starts going, which, okay, why you want to work on your vacation? Little weird. June thinks this. In 5 years of dude ranch operations, not one guest had offered real help. Most whined if dust touched their design or anything. Well, I hate to be on the side of like rich people who can afford to go to stupid horse ranch for random vacation, but like, some things are expensive. Now, should they just not be wearing them around horses? Yeah, if you wear anything around horses, it's probably gonna get ruined. Like, and she's just like, you don't have to, but Stevie's like, I want to. So they start working together in silence. Stevie anticipated what June needed. Post here, wire there. Hammer passed before June's hand opened for it. Like a dance they both knew by heart, which was impossible. They just met. Unsettling, dangerous, and something else June didn't want to name. I really just don't love the insta love or insta attraction. I complain about it every single book. I do not care. To me, it always has felt really unrealistic, like when in dating shows everyone's going after the one guy together, which, first of all, why are you competing for a man? They're not a prize. I know it's for TV, but like, you can't sit here and pretend that everyone feels this way when they see somebody. It's really odd to me. And then June hears her coworker Tommy's nervous laugh from near the horse barn, and she knows that his high-pitched laugh always means that he's either excited about something or he's trying to impress somebody. She's like, I gotta go help Tommy. He's the one making all the noise. And Stevie's like, Tommy, and like steps back. She's dusting herself off. June is like, he's another staff member. And so then Stevie looks like excited, and she's like, thanks June, this was ... And then she's like, see you around. And then we continue to describe someone that we don't know very well, because this is the first chapter of this book, and we maybe should have done some more setup. What do I know? That the woman moved like she had a melody playing in her head that kept her steps sure. She's not like the others. Not like other girls. Strikes again. She's just so special and different. And she's not actually going to help Tommy, which is interesting. And she goes to hammer the fence again, and she hits her thumb because she just missed the nail. And she's like, this is the first miss in years. And it's just because Stevie is so hot and so not like other girls. Here's a hot take, okay, as a femme, right? I love women. That's the whole point. And so like, even women that these types of people wouldn't like stereotypical women who love shopping. I love shopping, number one, but shopping, makeup, parties, decorating, like, I still love women who love all of those things because it's stupid to just make fun of people's interests because you are still misogynistic in your own head. I think comparing and contrasting women is a little odd, and I'm not against it entirely. Like if there was a love triangle or whatever, it's not my favorite, but I'll deal with it, right? My main complaint is when you're like, she's not like the others. It feels like you're deciding that she is the only woman worthy of your respect and worthy of your decency. And I worry about that because I think that's really weird. And I think that kind of comes close to men who are only nice to women that they want to get with, or who give them something that they need, right? I just wish there was less of it in sapphic books. But by the end of the chapter, June is blaming Stevie, and she will continue to blame Stevie for all her problems, so let's go. Chapter 2, we're with Stevie. We learn that Stevie is in college, and she was taking some kind of economics classes the week before. She's been doing business as a major for her mom and dad, and then sustainability studies for her conscience, and then she also writes songs for her soul. Isn't it a little ridiculous that the other main character keeps comparing her to music, and she's a songwriter? Like, it's a little on the nose, don't we think? But none of this matters now. She is on a mission. She wants to find June, that grumpy woman with the hammer and eyes that had stripped away her carefully constructed plans for the future in a single morning. The one who tested her writing knowledge as if she were defending a doctoral thesis, then looked shocked when Stevie passed, who had made fixing fence posts feel like something out of a dream she didn't want to wake from. Get a grip, Martinez. Yes, get a grip. Stevie? Holy hell. Also, like, to me, the testing her about horses, like, I understand with horses, there is partially a safety concern. However, I would like to examine or like put across the point that horses are unpredictable animals anyway. However, to me this feels like when I said I liked a band from the 80s, one of my exes from high school's friends was also a man, you know, would like try to test my knowledge of said band in the comments like I'm like just only enjoying a band's most popular hits is such a crime. And I feel like it's a weird gatekeepy thing, and it was extra weird because this felt like a gatekeepy thing that he didn't even care about. I feel like it's icky, and I feel like women are always questioned about their interests and men never are. I don't see people in the comments of men who do makeup being like, have you even bought this specific whatever? Like, it's never that. It's only happening to women. It's very frustrating to me. Okay, so yay, Stevie is going to be riding with the advanced group tomorrow thanks to Tommy, and she's like, do you know where the woman who helped me this morning is? And he's like, June? He's like, I mean, yeah, she knows horses better than anyone. And she's like, I don't really know why she sent you to me. He's like, she's probably around the south pasture checking on the new foals, which for those of us that don't care that much about horses, is a baby horse. And don't worry, this ranch isn't like the manicured fancy equestrian centers near Denver, okay? I'll take your word for it. I've never been to Denver. Then she spots her. It's June leaning against a fence rail, watching a mare with her weeks-old colt. Hooray. And she looks soft, unguarded, almost tender as she watched the horses. So different from this morning's guarded distance. This is what I came to Colorado for. No, I thought you came to see horses and ride horses. She didn't want the manufactured ranch experience that her parents gifted her. Okay, I mean, if they're paying, it's a little rude, but okay. I guess because of the financial position I'm in, it's stupid to not take gifts from people when it's free. Like, I don't know. And this is apparently their attempt to give her one last adventure before she disappears into Morrison Environmental Consulting's glass tower. And she thinks this about June. A woman who looked at horses like she could read their souls, who belonged to this land in a way Stevie had never belonged anywhere. Why are we pretending that this woman can read a horse's soul? What are we talking about? June sees her and then looks, you know, like her shields are back up or what have you. She's like, hey, I wanted to apologize to you for this morning because I feel like I maybe overstepped when I helped you work. And June's like, you didn't overstep, just like most guests wouldn't have offered. I'm like, yeah, because they don't work here. They pay you, not the other way around. And Stevie's like, most guests don't really know the difference between a fence post and a telephone pole. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. What are we talking? Like, this to me doesn't feel like a place where only out of touch rich rich people go send their little girls or whatever. So most middle class and lower class people know what a telephone pole is. I would even say most rich people know what a telephone pole is. Like, what are we talking about? For the love of God. We're just not like other girls here. We're just so different. And then she goes on to talk about her friend Liam, who has a small farm situation outside of Boulder. And June kind of like does the math and is like, oh, you do like environmental consulting. And Stevie's like, how did you? And she's like, well, you mentioned sustainability earlier, asked 3 different questions about our water management while we were working. Like, plus you have that look. She's like, what look? So like someone who thinks about land use even when they're trying not to. Okay. Okay. Not every story has to be relatable to me for me to enjoy it. It doesn't have to be. It's fine if it's not, but it does make it harder sometimes. Like, I feel like I'm Evan Hansen on the outside always looking in, because like I don't know if this is normal, you know? And I also just feel like that in my book club sometimes, because there's only 2 of us on the East Coast, but the other person on the East Coast is further south than I am by like a lot. And they'll be talking about things. And then they'll be like, Shelby, why didn't you say anything? And I'm like, because New Hampshire is a lawless land and it's nothing like what you just described. I had to tell them that you don't have to wear a seatbelt here, that our minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. I had to tell them that there was a town completely taken over by bears because of libertarians. Like, I feel like an alien. That's how I feel right now with them being like, horses, land use. I'm like, I don't think about any of that, which is fine. It's what it is. And also, I like horses. I'm not pretending that I don't. I do like horses, but I also have a healthy fear of them, and I don't have a desire to ride them. So I actually like ponies better. Are they a little mean sometimes? Yeah, but I still prefer them. And to that comment though, Stevie is like, guilty. I'm a double major, business and sustainability studies. Is this flirting? She's like, and this is supposed to be my last trip before I have to go and be a working adult. And June's just like, supposed to be. My parents think caring about land management is just a phase I'll grow out of once I get a real job. And June's like, what do you think? It's like, I wouldn't divulge this much personal information to somebody that I just met. And I know that the reading between the lines of the text, it's implied very heavily that June's hot and that's why this is fine. I still wouldn't. And Stevie's like, I like places like this. She's like, this is exactly the stuff we're gonna lose if we keep treating land like a commodity instead of a living system. Yeah, well, that's what happens when a bunch of white supremacists take over from the native people who lived on this land. Although we also have to point out that the British wrecked their own land already and a lot of species are just extinct, and the Thames has been like biologically dead for a real hot minute. And June's like, is that why you're here? You're here to study our operation? And Stevie's like, partly. She's like, but mostly I think this is my last chance to figure out who I want to be before I accept the job. I'm here because I wanted to experience something real before I disappear into a Denver office building for the next 40 years. I don't like this messaging. Some people are gonna have to work in offices, and honestly, that's a job I really want, is to be an animator and work in an office, you know? I feel like it's not just this book. I feel like it's online too, where we've had this devaluation of like more stable careers that are, you know, 9 to 5 in an office or whatever. And there's been a whole lot of hustle culture BS, like be your own boss, work 3 jobs. It's a nightmare to work more than 1 job. It sucks. And I don't recommend it to anyone. I do it to survive. So I just feel like acting like this is real out in the middle of goddamn nowhere where you don't live is more real than your potential future where you did take that job. I'm not saying that the job would be fun, but I am saying that it's equally real as being in the mountains surrounded by horses. Honestly, I feel like it might be more real because horses, as much as I love them, okay, are very uncanny valley. They look really odd. June's like, is it real? And Stevie's like, it's more real than anything I've experienced in 4 years of college, especially this morning. And June's getting a little blushy and she's like, I need to head back to do some evening chores. And Steve's like, can I walk with you? I mean, if you don't mind the company. And June's hesitating, but she's like, yeah, I guess if you want. And June's kind of hesitating because she was like, I thought she might say no. And so she's just like, okay. And she saw the briefest smile on June's face. Hooray. And June's like, don't get attached. All right. And Stevie's like, too late. I think I already am. It is 13 pages in this fucking book. Stop. June walks towards the barn at some point and then she glanced back over her shoulder at Stevie once and it was enough. And Stevie's just standing there. Literally it says grinning like an idiot. I agree. She'd come to Sacred Peaks Ranch for one last adventure before life claimed her. She hadn't expected to find someone who might make her reconsider what life meant. June, even her name sounded like a song Stevie was determined to learn, one careful note at a time. I hate Insta love. I hate Insta love. I think it's awful. I think it's boring. I think it's easy to write Insta love because like you don't have to prove it. You just write it and all of your writing just continuously says, trust me bro, trust me bro, trust me bro. I don't trust you because you guys keep letting me down. Chapter 3, we're back with June and June's hanging out on the porch. It's her refuge apparently. June is drawing one of the horses called Storm. It's a black horse and she thinks that everyone else sees attitude from this horse, but she sees an intelligence sharp enough to cut, a mind that needed problems to solve or it would create its own. Okay, I grew up around horses, not like a ton, but like enough, I feel. My aunt and uncle had two. One was really nice, one was not. Okay, and then also we had land in Vermont for a bit. My parents really ruined our whole financial future, but whatever. Next door, they had horses. They had a pony who I loved, who was really mean. And they had a Clydesdale who was terrified of the pony. So like, I've been around horses. Those are not even all the horses I know, but those are the ones I knew the best, right? Horses aren't that smart, guys. I don't want to sound mean, but they're not. Like, have you ever seen a horse? Like, not only are horses built stupid, but like there's not a lot going on in there. So, and that's okay. That's totally fine. It shouldn't matter that there's not a whole lot going on in there. I said what I said. And then she hears you're really good at that and she kind of skitters her pencil because she wasn't expecting it and it's Stevie again. And June's like, of course she'd show up now. My guard is down. Great. She's like, I'm just being myself right now and I don't really want to do that in front of other people. And I'm like, yeah. I feel that. Stevie says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sneak up on you. I was walking back from dinner and I saw you out here. And June just wants to slam the sketch pad shut and hide and rebuild all her walls. I'm like, I didn't think you unbuilt them because we're only on chapter 3. She's like, but something in Stevie's expression stopped her. Not polite tourist curiosity, something else. Like she actually wanted to see, to understand. Understand what? You're drawing a horse. Like, I'm not trying to be a douche, but like that was something that actually really annoyed me in art school was every time you made something, you had to justify its existence. You had to make it more profound than it was. And like that was really hard for me because again, I think I'm autistic and I would just go up and be like, I drew a horse. I mean, I didn't. I would never draw a horse. They're hard to draw. But for the sake of this, let's pretend it was a horse. Like I drew a horse and they're like, okay, what does it mean? What are you trying to say? I'm like, nothing. It's a horse. It's a study that I did of a horse. Like that felt like every conversation. I was like, what is the meaning? I'm like, it doesn't have one. And like, it's fine if like your art does have meaning and that's great, but like not every sketchbook piece needs to have a meaning, you know? And Stevie says, may I? And June wants to say no, but she doesn't. She hands it to Stevie, who then sits in an old wicker chair. And Stevie is like, is that Storm the black horse with the opinions? And June's like, you can tell most people just see a horse. I mean, you work at this horse ranch. There's one really irritating horse. You're drawing the irritating horse. This lady is obsessed with horses too. I don't think it's rocket science to have seen the drawing and then look at it and be like, that's the horse. What is the word horse gonna lose meaning to me? I don't know. I've been saying it and thinking it for like ever now. But Stevie's like, you just caught something about his expression. Like he's 3 steps ahead of everyone and slightly amused about it. And June's like, damn, she got it. She actually got it. I'm like, okay, all right. It's very much giving from Ever After with Drew Barrymore when the prince sees Leonardo da Vinci's The Painting of Mona Lisa and he's like, she mocks me, sir, as if she knows something I do not. Like, all right. And then June starts to explain horses to this other horse girl by being like, they're all different. People think horses are just ... transportation or props for photos, but they're individuals. They have moods, preferences, traumas. Like people, Stevie says softly. And June's like, better than people. Horses don't lie, don't pretend. They just ... are. I would like to kind of harp on the point again though. I don't think it occurs to them to try and lie because number one, they can't talk, and number two, again, horses are not that smart. Like Sorry to say it, but it's true. And Stevie's like, is that why you draw them? To understand them better? And then she decides to talk about her mom, and I'm like, I thought we were trying to keep the walls up, girl. And she's like, my mom used to say I have a gift. Said I could see their hearts. She'd sit out here with me after dinner, listen to all my theories about why Shadow was acting up or why Buttercup wouldn't take the bit. She sounds wonderful. She was. Her name was Navia. That means sky in Ute, or Ute. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's UTE. I'm so sorry. She died when I was 13, cancer, quick and merciless. I'm sorry. And then June thinks, simple, no platitudes about time healing or everything happening for a reason, just acknowledgement of loss. See, but when I do that and when other autistic people do that, people get mad. Like when I've just said like, I'm sorry, and then like nothing else, they get like mad at you. What? Whatever. And June's like, my dad thinks it's impractical spending so much time on horse psychology when I should be learning the business. Says I get too attached. Well, if they're your whole business, maybe you should be attached, sir. Can't believe I'm defending this. But attachment is the whole point, isn't it? If you don't care, if you don't connect, then what's the point of any of it? Well, what do I know? What do I know? We're not gonna harp on it. And June's like, most people think it's just riding lessons and trail rides, but you're actually reading their souls. Why do we need to read their souls? Are they trapped in the shadow realm? Like, what are we talking about? Also, like, I don't know if everyone makes real connections with all of their pets or animals, because I have met just some pets in my pet sitting career over the last 10 years that there are just a lot of people that don't care as deeply about them. And I also just think that horses are so labor intensive that I don't think that it necessarily means much if you're like riding with them. I mean, like, maybe it does, but like a lot of horses I know hate being ridden, so like, or that I knew anyway, hated being ridden, so it's kind of like, or like, do they feel some kind of deep connection to you while you're mucking out their stall? Like, I don't think so. And then June's just like, I never really talk about this stuff. And Stevie's like, well, maybe you never found the right person to talk to. And June's like, oh shit, I gotta get out of here. And she's like, I should. And Stevie's like, wait, I'm not going to push. I like talking to you. You see things differently, deeper. Don't worry, they're both not like other girls. TM. June's like, I'm not good at people. You're good at truth. That's rarer than being good at people. I fear that's a very neurotypical thing to say, because I feel like anytime I've actually been honest in real life, people hate it. I'm not even talking about like brutal honesty, because brutal honesty can be very hurtful and it's on purpose. I'm talking about degular honesty. Ugh. And then June sits back in the chair and she's like, my mom loved this time of day, called it the sacred hour, when the work was done but the night hadn't claimed everything yet. She said it was when the world was most honest. I personally think the world was most honest in the time where dinosaurs ruled the earth, personally, where it was a terrible, horrifying place to live, where there was danger around every corner. That's what I think is more honest. I think that we have kind of sugar-coated a lot of things, and I'm not saying there's no reason to find joy, but at the same time, like, the world is kind of terrible. And I know that I'm a cynic and a pessimist, and I also know that I'm a Scorpio with like a Virgo rising or something, so it's really, really messed up in here. But like, I think that the world has a lot of horrors, and that a lot of people are just trying to go about their day being delusional and pretending the horrors don't exist. And Stevie's like, she was right about this time of day being more honest. Okay. Everything looks different in this light. Softer but more vivid somehow. Okay. June looks at her and Stevie's face is looking great, you know, obviously in this lighting. It's like, why are you here? Like, really? And Stevie pauses and is like, because somewhere between my parents' expectations and my own fears, I lost track of who I actually am. In places like this, people like you, ... you make me remember that there's another way to be. What way is that? True. Like, well, I understand why you're romanticizing this idea, because you are living a life where you basically pretended to want this career and you lied your way through it for your parents, but like, that is solidly on you. I find it very odd. Like, I understand the correlation. I understand what we're saying. I understand what we're saying, but at the same time, I'm just like, I also think this is a very odd, specific misread of everyday rustics, as they would call them in Ever After, because she was born into this business, and it might not be what she wanted to do with her entire life. Even though it's clear she loves horses, I'm not saying she doesn't, but like owning a ranch and doing all this stuff with these tourists clearly is not what she wanted to do with her life, but she's pretty much locked in because of her parents. So I feel like it misunderstands how some people get to where they are going, you know? And then June is just like, she can't handle this romance, apparently, and is like, I gotta go check on the horses. And she's just like, thank you for showing me your drawings. And June is just like terrified. And Stevie's like, do you want to come meet the same time tomorrow? Like, I promise to not interrupt your drawing. I just like being near you. And June's like, maybe. And the last sentence of the chapter is, they both knew it meant yes. Yeah, I know. Thanks. Chapter 4, Stevie. Book is taking forever. So Stevie is very tired because she barely slept. She decided to get up at 5:30 to what? Go bother June, obviously. And she just kept replaying the conversation with her like all night. And I'm like, okay, but like, I'm not trying to be a dick. It was not that riveting of a conversation. Like, I'm sure it felt very deep to the two of you. However, I don't know. Like, we're supposed to believe that June is guarded and that June doesn't feel comfortable. And yet she's spilling all this shit about her mom immediately. Like, it doesn't fit the character. So like, yeah, maybe the conversation felt profound to you, but like, as the reader, as the outside perspective, I'm just looking at it going, this is not only unbelievable for who I'm meant to believe that June is as a person, but it's just odd. Like, if you're going to write emotionally closed off people, you really need to write them that way and stick with it until you actually successfully do an arc where they're not that way anymore. And she goes to the barn to see June. June's like, you're up early. And Stevie's like, so are you, though I see you've got the coffee situation handled. And June's just like, yeah, there's another mug over there on the tack room shelf. And Stevie thinks, permission, progress, if you say so, honey. And June says, hey, you don't have to get up this early for me. By the way, like, she clocked it immediately. And she's just like, maybe I like the company. Yes, we know, because you won't shut up about how much you like the company. But June is like, okay, can you grab those buckets? These horses get cranky when breakfast is late. And so for the next hour, Stevie is memorizing and learning June's morning routine with the horses. But what captured Stevie completely was watching June work, not just feeding horses, greeting each one individually, hands running along necks, checking eyes and legs with the unconscious ease of someone who'd been doing this since before memory. Well, I mean, if it's before memory, she really shouldn't have been around horses. So, horses are violent sometimes. Like, what are we talking about? Like, literally, Storm tries to bite June, like in the paragraph before this a little bit. Like, my uncle's black horse used to kick the shit out of her. Stevie's like, she's looking better about a mare, but like, I don't remember why I'm assuming it has to be the one that had a baby, right? Like, whatever. And June's just like, you noticed? And she's like, it's hard not to. She's like, yesterday she stood in the corner for 5 minutes before eating. And we learned that this mare came from a previous owner who believes in breaking in horses the hard way, which is awful, obviously. And Stevie's like, but she's learning to trust again. Yeah, okay. And we're like, slowly, we can't rush healing. And Stevie's like, that sounds familiar. And I'm like, you met her yesterday. Can you get out of her personal business, you weirdo? Like, that is so rude to say and assume about somebody. But they work in sync after this, even though I thought that was rude and I would tell her to get out of here, but okay. And then June, after they're done, is like, you want to see something? And Stevie's like, always. And June is telling her all the cool stuff about the land and whatever. And they're going. And then June's like, we're almost there. Are you okay? And Stevie's like, great. And then they can see the entire ranch below them like a living map. And she's like, June, this is ... words failed. Why? Look, I feel like a lot of people come to New Hampshire and they're like, wow, it's so beautiful, it's so gorgeous, it's whatever. And sometimes, yes, okay, but I think that it's just land at the end of the day. And I know that sometimes it's really pretty, but like, I don't think about the land that much. Like, I care about it because I was born and raised here, but like, and again, a story doesn't have to be relatable to me for me to enjoy it, but like, it's just all of this shit. honestly. And June's like, I know, I come here when I need to think and to remember why all this matters. And okay, neurotypical people, like, do you have to remind yourself that things matter or that this is why I do this? Like, I never have that thought. I mean, I also am in a job I hate, but like still, it's like, thank you for bringing me up here. And she's like, I've never brought anyone up here before. Yes, because this is just so special. This woman you met yesterday who won't leave you alone. TV's like, why me? Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I just left. If I told my dad I didn't want to follow his plans. If I went somewhere no one knew me as ... as someone I'm supposed to be instead of who I am. She's like, what would you do if you could do anything? And June says, I'd like to like travel maybe and see how other people connect to their land and animals and draw them, write about it. She's like, that's pretty stupid, huh? And Stevie's like, it's not stupid, it's beautiful and brave. This is why we are where we are at this juncture of this terrible country where they're trying to replace artists with AI and shit. It's because you have to be brave to pick an artistic career, and I just think that that's a bunch of BS. Also, like, if this is a ranch that you will own when your dad dies or retires or whatever, why can't you just hire someone else to run it? If you guys are making that much money, like, and you're getting paid, presumably, just pay someone what you're paying yourself and then don't deal with it. Like, I don't get it. And June's like, I don't know if I'm brave enough to find out. She's like, are you brave enough to chase what you really want instead of what everyone expects? And Stevie's like, I'm trying to be. Being here, meeting you, ... woman I've known for about 24 hours or less. It's making me realize maybe brave isn't about not being scared. Maybe it's about wanting something more than you want safety. No, not exactly. Like, why are we pretending that words don't have definitions lately? Whatever. And June's like, what do you want? And she thinks you. And I'm like, yes, we can see that. Thank you. She's like, to stop living my life according to someone else's blueprint. And June's like, yeah, that. Very articulate, aren't you, June? They sit in comfortable silence, watching the sun rise over the ranch. And June says we should head back, but she doesn't move. And Stevie's like, yeah, but she doesn't move either. And Stevie tries to move her hand towards June's hand, but not touch it yet. She's like, just maybe soon. Ooh. And I'm like, oh my god. Stevie's like, tomorrow, and maybe you could show me some of those advanced writing techniques you mentioned. I'd love to learn from someone who actually knows what they're doing. And June's mouth twitches in an almost smile. Okay. Says, we'll see how you handle the morning chores first. And then they finally stand to leave, and June decides to give some sage horse girl wisdom and is like, this place teaches you things if you pay attention. And that's true of everywhere. Like, the fuck? And she's like, what has it taught you? That sometimes the scariest things are the most worth doing. Sometimes. I mean, we said sometimes, so I guess it's fine, but like, And then they're heading back down the trail, and that's it. Right at the end, Stevie is thinking about what's building between them. Nothing, because you met one day ago. Stop this. Chapter 5, June. Before we get into that though, one of my main problems is the lack of pining, which I know that you guys hear me talk about, but I watched the other Bennett sister. Don't ask me how I watched it. I will not tell you unless you DM me, and then I will tell you. The pining, the yearning, the like, oh, it was perfect. It was perfect. I'm just like, why can't we get that, you know? I feel like the most yearning I've experienced like in quite a while was The Locked Tomb, honestly. And I'm on the Battle Drum by Sarah El Rifi, which is book 2 in the Ending Fire trilogy. So there's a lot of pining in this one because the two girlies who are in love are separated by like an ocean. So I like all the pining moments in here. June has decided to go to the creek instead of the porch because the porch feels too exposed. So she goes to some place called Willow Creek, and she has brought her worn out copy of Joy Harjo's poetry. I don't know who that is, and I refuse to look it up because I don't like poetry, and that's a personal preference. And she reads us one of the lines, which is, remember you are this universe and this universe is you. And I'm like, okay, beyond my autistic comprehension. Clearly she's felt restless, like she's fighting these past few days ever since Stevie. I'm like, okay. And she's like, there you are, and Stevie's here because Stevie is a stalker. Why are you gonna start following her into the bathroom? What are we doing? And she's like, sorry, Tommy said you might be down here. I didn't mean to interrupt your ... solitude. I can go ... which just feels like a guilt trip because you did intend to interrupt her solitude on purpose. this? What are we talking about? And June says, no, it's a little sharp, but then she makes her voice softer and she's like, I mean, you don't have to go, it's fine. Like, is it fine? Because even people who are into each other need breaks from each other. Is it fine? She's like, what are you reading? And then she shows the book. She has like a little poetry collection and she doesn't want to show people because like they either roll their eyes about poetry or they make jokes about pretentious artsy types. And I'm like, I'm not making fun of it, I just don't enjoy it, you know? Like, but I do know what she means because like growing up with very rednecky people was difficult for me, that's for sure. And so she's hidden her collection in her room for a long time because she didn't want the jerk ranch hands or the visitors to see them, you know? June says Joy Harjo, she's Muskogee Creek, and she's like, my mom loved her work, said she understood how the land holds our stories, how we're not separate from it, but part of it. And she's like, and my mom bought this for me when I was 10 because we went to a reading. And Stevie's like, your mom had excellent taste. And June says, yeah, she used to read poems to me, said they helped her understand why she felt so connected to this place and to the land. She's like, poetry helps me figure out stuff I can't name, feelings that don't have words yet. And I'm like, well, that's great, but like my brain just got hung up on the words because I'm like, I get that your feelings don't have words yet. There's nothing wrong with what this book said right there, but my brain immediately started frying itself and was like, poetry is words. I'm like, no, they're talking about the feelings, not the poetry, Shelby's brain, stop it. But my rodent, deep fried overnight worker brain was like, poems are words. Dear God. Like, comment, subscribe so I can quit my overnight job. We're like 200 away from making money. It's crazy. Anyway. And Stevie's like what? Like, why some mornings the mountains make my chest ache with beauty. Why watching Belle learn to trust again makes me want to cry. She laughed, embarrassed. Stupid stuff. So, making my chest ache with beauty is kind of an odd sentence, isn't it? Like, what does that feel like? Like your chest is aching, but it says with beauty. I'm like, obviously you're trying to say that this is so beautiful and wonderful that it makes my chest ache. You're feeling very sentimental, but I feel it was just worded very odd. He's like, it's not stupid, words matter. That they're how we make sense of this chaos, right? Sure. I actually kind of had a meltdown because, okay. I'm taking a break from reading bad books for a hot second because I literally have content planned for us until like August, okay? Or like later than that. Maybe it's September, I don't remember. However, I needed a break because the last one fried me. I was like, I'm so sick of this. So I'm reading horror, but I still had like this weird thought. I think I was actually reading The Battle Drum for my book club and I was like, it's so odd that humans know so many things that like other animals don't. Like, we invented all of these symbols and we taught ourselves what they mean when they go together and they form words, which form sentences, which forms paragraphs, which we then extrapolate meaning from. My brain was having a really hard time being like, because I love reading, but my brain was like, why do we do this? Why? Like, it felt really horrifying in the moment because I was like, wait, other animals don't read. The closest my dogs have come to reading is that Ginger will lick a book if it came from like a bookstore, because if it's brand new, she's gotta lick it. I don't know why. It's like Jenna Marbles' dog Kermit in the Irish Spring soap. And June's like, my dad thinks that I shouldn't get lost in feelings. And Stevie's like, but feelings are what make us human. I mean, that's not accurate. Do you think that other animals don't have feelings? What is the whole thing about the horses then? You think the horses don't have feelings? So by your logic, horses have feelings, so therefore horses are human. Therefore a tiger is a human. Therefore the T-Rexes were human. What are we talking about? That's... Shush. It's like, without them, we're just going through the motions, aren't we? Without purpose or meaning. And I'd rather feel everything, even the painful parts, than nothing at all. And June's like, you sound like you know something about that. So you guys know some interesting medical information about me, but I dissociate nearly 24/7. My therapist is worried about it. We are going to try and work on it once again. However, when I'm dissociating and I'm not feeling anything, that doesn't mean life has no meaning for me. It doesn't mean I have no motivation or passion still inside me for the things that I care about. So I just hate that you're insinuating that without feelings, people are not people anymore. I'm still a person when I'm dissociating inside a grocery store. I still have wants and dreams and needs. I'm just not feeling my feelings right that second. And there's nothing wrong with that. God. And she's like, I understand about words. I write songs. And June's like, you write songs, like actual music. Yes. What else? Songs, lyrics, melodies, the whole thing. My parents think it's a waste of time. Real careers pay bills, they say. She's like, but that's like, but June is like, but you're a songwriter. That's so cool. She's like, I try to be. I shouldn't. This is probably silly, but I want to see. And then she hands the notebook. This will only be helpful if you can read music, I fear. And then we get some of her lyrics, which I just imagine as a country song. Just like, should I try a southern accent? I don't know if I'd be offensive. I've been searching for a place that feels like home. Their cities made of glass and steel and stone, but home isn't a place. I'm learning now. It's the peace I find when you're around. And then June says, Stevie, these are ... They're beautiful. Don't lie to her. Don't lie to her. What are you talking about? Stevie's like, really? You don't think they're too much? I think they're not enough. I think you need to like talk to Ethel Kane and then come back to me. She's like, they're perfect. They're honest. How do your parents not see how talented you are? Same way your dad doesn't see that understanding horses' hearts is a gift, not a waste of time. Parents see what they want to see. Sure, okay. And then June's like, I never thought I'd meet someone who understood about the words and how they can save you. Maybe you just needed someone who speaks the same language. I mean, everyone on this farm is speaking English. Like, I know that we mean an emotional language. I know that we're trying to do some kind of like, I don't know if it's a metaphor or analogy. I'm too tired. I know what a metaphor is, so it's not that, I don't think. But like, what are we doing? Like, understanding doesn't just require language. Because if understanding just required language, my ex wouldn't have cheated emotionally on me, so. And June's like, sometimes I dream about helping other people find this and feel this. What I feel with the land, with the horses, where like that author of the poems is like, where it's the connection and you don't know where you end and the land begins. If I could just show people how to really see and really connect, it's probably impossible and a waste of time. She gets kind of embarrassed by the end. It's not impossible, Stevie said, her voice fierce with something June couldn't name. It's beautiful. I want to give people what you have, that connection, that understanding. That's the most generous thing I've ever heard. You want to share your gift with the world. But it's not one of these books without this ridiculous paragraph. Their eyes met and held. The air crackled between them, invisible currents dancing across the inches that separated their bodies, each breath drawing them closer to something June couldn't quite name, or wouldn't. Not yet. We're doing a lot here. So the air is crackling. There's invisible currents, but those currents are dancing. Your breathing is drawing you closer also for some reason. Okay, that's a lot. And June, after, because they've been looking at each other kind of like a bunch of weirdos, because again, Stevie's a stalker, is like, what are you thinking about? And then Stevie's like, you. And June's heart stops and then picks up double time. Of course it does. And she feels like she should say something, but she just wants to kiss her. And then she's like, this realization should have sent me running, but it doesn't. But June's like, we should head back. But neither of them moved at all, obviously, because we know where this is going. She's like, June. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your poetry, for trusting me with it. I don't know why she does if everyone has belittled her and all that stuff. Like, I've had such a hard time sharing what I'm into because like my parents either didn't care or my dad was sometimes like hostile, especially when I started to be interested in things that were more adult. So like, if that is how June grew up, I think that it's odd that she's just like melting completely for this person she met like a couple of days ago at this point. Very odd. And then they sit in comfortable silence for a while longer and they stand to leave, but now June feels different, lighter, or just more aware, more alive, more herself than she'd been in years, and terrified. Because for the first time in her life, June wanted someone more than she wanted to be safe. You say so, darling. Chapter 6, Stevie. Don't worry, Stevie's been thinking about the creek all day. And she saw that flash of heat in June's eyes when she had told her that she just wanted her. And I'm like, if you say so. Sometimes I think people are making that up. Say June wanted her. You say so. I mean, we know she does, but like, I can't imagine having this kind of audacity. I think my other problem is that I like to be pursued. I don't like to do the pursuing because the person who pursues you is obviously interested in you, unless this is Cruel Intentions from the 90s, and then maybe not, but like they're genuinely into you and you don't have to guess, you know? So like, it's not for me. Good for you, Stevie. Not for me. She goes to find June. She has an acoustic guitar across her lap on the porch. And Stevie's like, that's beautiful. Do you play? And June's like, it was my mom's. Sometimes I tune it. I don't really know how to play. And then Stevie's chest aches because of how lonely she sounds, and she's like, do you want to hear some of my songs? And June's like, you'd play for me? And she's like, if you want, may I? So she hands her the guitar. All I can think of is from Taylor Swift's first album. Again, I'm not a Swiftie anymore, but like, teardrops on my guitar. Like, that's what I feel like it's gonna sound like. And she plays it, and then June's like, that was so beautiful. You're really talented. And her breath is breathy. Stevie's like, thank you. Do you want to try? And she's like, oh no, I couldn't. She's like, sure you could. Let me show you. She, positions June's fingers on the guitar with her own, and then she's like trying to teach her. It's the very like helping you with your golf swing move, okay? And their breathing is getting all weird because again, this is a golf club move. This is very transparent. We all know what's going on. June is like, your hands are so strong. And then the air between them went electric. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. Like, I'm so sick of this. She's like, June. She's like, I need to check on the horses. And I'm like, okay, those horses get a lot of attention. And Stevie's like, hey, the horses are fine. Tommy already did the evening stuff. And June's like, hey, I just need, and then she like can't say it. And she's like, good night, Stevie. And then she's out of there. But don't worry. But Stevie smiled because June had said it out loud. Your hands are so strong. And there was no taking that back. I'm like, what does that have to do with what? Why is that the best compliment you can imagine? Like, I mean, it's good. Okay, we also need to talk about this really quick. I know they said your hands, but you can pretty much cut off all the fingers. And you want to know why? Fingers actually don't have muscles, which is very odd, but they don't. It's in your palm area. And so half her hand is very strong. I know that's a nitpick. I just like... What are we talking about? And then it's it skips to the next morning for the advanced writing lesson. And it's a lesson that June had reluctantly agreed to give to Stevie because again, Stevie is her stalker who doesn't understand anything about emotional boundaries. But there's a lot of tension in June's shoulders. And Stevie thinks that means that she was thinking about last night too. I'm like, yeah, probably about how you're a weirdo. And June's like, we're gonna work on your seat and leg position and make sure you're solid before we hit the trails. And she's like, that sounds perfect. And she's gonna ride a horse named Ranger. Okay. And June's telling her that her posture needs work and is like kind of manhandling her a little bit, and Stevie's skin is burning through her shirt, and okay, that's fine. Fair, I guess. And then June moves Stevie's thigh, and Stevie thinks to herself that all the touching is professional and necessary, except that June's hands linger a little too long, and her voice has gone rough around the edges. Why are you torturing this farmer woman? Leave her alone. And she's saying stuff about the horse, and Stevie is just taking it as very sexual, but my autism cannot handle that. She's just like, the words were innocent, but the way June was saying them wasn't. Like, I can't imagine that, really. And at one point then June looks up and their faces are inches apart, and June looks at Stevie's lips, and Stevie thought that they were gonna kiss, right? And it seems like they're gonna. And then Ranger moves a little bit, the horse, and at the same moment, Marissa, who we've never heard about until now, yells, June, Scott's looking for you. And June jerks back and is like, I should, that's probably important. And she's gone, and Stevie can't even say anything. And Stevie's just left there sitting on Ranger. And she's like, we were so close. Can you imagine being that horse? Two lesbians trying to almost kiss with one of them on you and one of them not. I would not want to be that horse. Later, Stevie's being a stalker again. She's watching June and Maria hanging up laundry. And I'm like, that's not weird at all. And Stevie realizes she was holding her breath while watching her, and she's like, what is wrong with me? I don't know. I don't. This is like the story where like your grandparents will tell you how they met, and then it will be one of the most horrifying things you've ever heard of, where he like won't take no for an answer. He keeps showing up and showing up and showing up. That's Stevie. That's Stevie. And then she finds June in the dining hall for lunch, who's sitting alone and just pushing food around, and then their eyes meet and June's face goes through 6 different emotions before settling on panic. Stevie's like, mind if I sit? And June's like, free country. They sit in loaded silence while everyone else is talking. And then Tommy comes up and is like, June, Scott wants you to check on the irrigation lines in the north pasture, please, like this afternoon. And she's like, yeah, I checked that yesterday. And he's like, well, he wants them checked again and maybe take someone with you, you know, for safety, mountain lions and such. And June's like, there haven't been mountain lions in the north pasture in 5 years. He's like, can't be too careful. And he dips his hat at Stevie. He's like, ma'am, lovely day, isn't it? And after he leaves, June buries her face and is just like, he knows. Stevie's like, knows what? And she's just like, that we almost, and she's like, kissed? Is that such a bad thing? And June's like, yes, no, I don't know. I have to go check on that. Bye. And she's like, want company, you know, for the mountain lions? And June stops, and then she's like, fine, but like bring water, it's hot. Page break. June is in full avoidance mode. That's according to Stevie, but it's also according to me. She's also working on some fence repairs in that north pasture. Stevie's like, do you need help? And she's got like bottles of cold water, and June's like, I got it. But Stevie isn't giving up this easily, okay? And she, after a few minutes, pulls the tank top over her head in her sports bra, and because it's really hot, but I don't believe that. And then June's just like staring at her hammer like halted mid-swing, and then Stevie's like, I'm gonna stretch. And I'm like, are we seriously doing the bend and snap right now? And then she's like, see something you like, cowgirl? Oh god, some real save a horse, ride a cowboy shit. And Stevie's like, it's okay, you know, to look. And so June is now looking, obviously. And June's like, I don't understand what's happening to me. So he's like, yes you do, you're just scared, to name it. And then June again looks at Stevie's lips, and she sways a little bit forward again, but then she stumbles backward and is grabbing her tools and is like, I gotta go. And as she's leaving, because she can't handle this, Stevie yells like, this isn't going away anytime soon. She's like, this isn't gonna go away, June. And June does not turn back to look at her, but she stumbles a little bit. And that stumble told Stevie everything she needed to know soon. Very soon, June was going to stop running. I mean, I don't think so. I think you're just gonna keep following her like the creep you've been. Chapter 7, June. June is still awake at 3 a.m., which if you're a farmer, that's terrible. And she just keeps thinking about that moment at the fence. And I'm like, it feels so odd. Romanticizing the farm life. I don't know. Like, farms are great. And sure, you can romanticize them sometimes, but like, this is still a little crazy. She's trying to think about anything else, but she then thinks about fence posts to take her mind off of the fence incident, which doesn't make any sense. And she's like, fence posts didn't pull their shirts off in the afternoon sun. Fence posts didn't have abs that made her mouth go desert. Fence posts didn't grin and say, see something you like, cowgirl, in a voice that should be illegal. Damn it. Like, no, they're inanimate objects. So, no, they wouldn't do that. I'm just picturing fence posts taking off their shirt and saying, see anything you like, cowgirl. June gives up on sleep after a while and just goes to get breakfast. And everything is wrong now. It doesn't taste as good because she's wrong. Okay, because she'd run away like a coward because she couldn't stop thinking about. And she's like, and then guess who is like, morning. Yeah. It's the stalker. She's back. She's standing in the doorway. June's like, I wasn't avoiding you. Which, like, no one said that, girl. Like, Steve's like, I didn't say you were, but you can't avoid me forever. She's like, I'm not avoiding anyone, I'm working. She's like, June. And that makes June look at her because there's something in Stevie's tone. And she's like, yesterday. She's like, it was hot. The heat makes people what? Want to kiss beautiful women, strip their clothes off, forget their own name. Like in her own head, she's like that. She's like, we have fence work to finish. That section isn't gonna repair itself, says June. So they're just walking in charged silence again, allegedly. And June's hyper aware of everything Stevie is doing. And she's like, the fence work should have been simple, but every interaction is loaded with electricity. Could we try describing it some other way, please? I know that this is a very common in the romance genre to describe everything that's romantic as some kind of electricity. However, when everyone's doing it, I'm bored. I'm sick of it. I don't want to see it anymore. Describe it as something else, please. Why has nobody described it as a rip tide in a hot minute? And then it's hot. Also, she smells Stevie because of course there has to be some kind of smells, and she smells like clean skin and something wild like honeysuckle. You say so. It sounds like you're just both getting really sweaty, so I don't agree, but okay. Stevie's like, God, this heat. And she like puts her hair up, and June's just like, it's gonna get worse. And Stevie is like, it's great we have that creek out here. Do you want to cool off after this? And June is kind of short-circuiting because she's like, that's where she said that she wanted me, and I don't know how to deal with that. But, and her rational part of her brain is saying, this is dangerous, don't do this. But she's like, okay. And Stevie smiles and says, good. Page break. They are now at the creek. Stevie's not hesitating. She's stripping down to just her sports bra and underwear like it was nothing. And Stevie's like, are you coming? She's getting in the water. And June starts taking off her stuff and has a sports bra on also. Stevie isn't being creepy, which is actually nice considering she's kind of a stalker. She's just being patient and warm. How nice. And they get in the water and Stevie's like, isn't that better? And she's like, yeah, this was a good idea. Say hi. Oh. I don't think he likes the horse book. To be fair, I think if he ever saw a horse, it would put him into a coma. Will you put you in a coma? Can you not handle horses? And Stevie's like, I have good ideas occasionally. Then they get all playful and they start splashing each other or whatever. But then they're not laughing anymore and it's kind of weird. And they're like floating near each other. Stevie's like, I keep thinking about yesterday. And June's like, which part? Like the part where you almost kissed me in the corral before we got interrupted. And June basically stops breathing, it says. And it's like, I wanted to. And Stevie's just like, I know. And she's just like, I don't understand what's happening to me. Like, I've never with a woman. Like, I don't know why I feel. And Stevie's like, you don't have to understand everything. Sometimes it's okay just to feel. And don't worry, Stevie's got freckles. Weirdo book club over here. Can't stand it either. Which are scattered across her face like constellations. Can we ever say anything else about freckles either? It's always the stars in the sky, the constellations for freckles, and then it's always electricity for any horny feeling. Write something else, please. I'm begging. Ginger has seen a horse. Haven't you, Ginger? You've seen a horse. She's also seen goats and cats and all that. She doesn't know what to do with animals that aren't dogs, though. Like, she'll try her best, but she's like, you guys are being so rude. I'm like, yeah, because they're not dogs, girl. And June's like, I'm scared. And she's just like, of what? Homophobia, number one, probably. Like, of how much I want this, want you. She's like, then don't be scared. Be brave with me. Nothing's happening exactly yet, but they're feeling very tender. Their chests are aching, blah, blah, blah. She's like, what's stopping you? June searched for an answer. Family expectations, small town gossip, a lifetime of assumptions about herself. But none of them seemed important anymore. Not with Stevie this close. Not with want burning through her veins like wildfire. See, she does know what's up. She just wants to kind of discount all of those reasons. And like, I'm not saying people don't do it, because of course queer people have been doing that for forever. But like, these are valid reasons. I think it's odd for the girl who's not from here to go, what's stopping you? You know what? You know what? And June just says, nothing's stopping me anymore. I'm like, those things all still exist, but good for you, girl. And June's just like, tomorrow I'm gonna stop running, stop hiding, stop pretending I don't want to kiss Stevie more than she wanted her next breath. Tomorrow she was gonna be brave. Okay. Chapter 8, Stevie. Stevie barely slept again because she's a stalker and she's just remembering the creek scene and she just remembers nothing's stopping me anymore. I'm surprised you guys didn't bang in the creek, to be honest with you, because it's one of those kinds of books. And she's watching June now pace outside the guest lodge after dinner, which again, it feels a little stalkery. It's what it is though. She's like, she looks like she's nervous but determined. And then she's like, hey Stevie, do you want to see something? Like, the stars are really clear tonight. And Stevie's like, I'd love to. And her heart went from normal to hummingbird in an instant. Thank you. Okay. She's like, this wasn't just an invitation to stargaze. Yeah, obviously. Are you stupid?
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Do you think we're, not even are you stupid, I know you're stupid, but do you think we're stupid, the readers? We're not, so like, get it together. And they walk in more charged silence through the ranch and then take a narrow trail. Woohoo. And then there's a bunch of wildflowers and whatever. June moved with the confidence of someone who knew every stone by heart, but Stevie caught her glancing back every few seconds, like she was checking that Stevie was still there, still willing. Always. Stevie would follow this woman anywhere. You don't know anything about her. And I know my brain almost always goys to serial killers, but for real, like, let's time out for a second. So there was this guy, I think I remember his name actually exactly, Ray Copeland. He's dead, so this is not giving him any weird publicity or extra shout outs or whatever, like anyone watches this channel. It's like I see the same 4 of you in every comment section. Anyway, he was doing this like check cashing scheme where he would hire homeless people to work on his cattle ranch. Like he'd help them open a bank account that had, you know, no money in it, ask them to write a check for the cattle, and then give the cattle to him, and then he would kill the guys. He would kill the guys. That's what I think of right now. I know we have no reason to think June would be like that, but you don't know her. You don't know this person. Like, I just feel like people make such crazy leaps of faith for really no good reason. But they get all the way up there. They can see the ranch again spread out below them like a living map. Yes, you said that once before. I don't think we need to say it again in this 133 page book. Thanks. And she's like, June, this is incredible. She's like, I come here when I need to remember who I am. Okay, so she has a place to go to remember who she is. She has a place to go for solitude, and she has a place to go for drawing. How many places does one girl need? This farm is not a safe space for her. When I need to be brave. Okay. I wanna see you be brave. And they're laying on a quilt. That's nice. And they brought a thermos of hot chocolate. That's nice. And a little brave for sure, because if you're gonna be getting busy and you're having dairy, I would be worried about that personally, but dairy does not agree with me. I like oat stuff better simply because I feel really sick when I eat too much dairy. I say as I eat dairy every day still, but like, let a girl live.
Obviously, don't go and do that, please.
Now, you do whatever you like.
We can't condone anything of the sort.
No, we can't. Live!
And June is complimenting her, as like saying you think of everything, and Stevie's like, I felt tonight could be special. About the hot chocolate. Again, I'm worried about your bowels during the thing, but what do I know? And June's just like, it already is. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cute. They're laying on the quilt. They're looking at the Milky Way in Colorado. And then we learn that June's great-grandmother taught her Ute or Ute. I don't know. I think it's a native tribe. I've just never heard of them genuinely, and if I'm saying it wrong, eviscerate me in the comments. Sound it out for me. I'm not offended, I promise. But they had star stories according to this. Also tell me if this is accurate, because again, I know a lot about a lot of different tribes in the United States, but I just haven't heard of this one. So, but there's a cluster called the Council of Grandmothers, and they gather every night to decide which lost souls need guidance home. And then there's seven stars, which is the seven sisters who refused to marry men they didn't love, and they chose the sky instead and chose each other. Kind of gay, kind of like the polycule. I'm into it. She's like, what's that one? And it's the Great Bear, and it represents courage, the strength to follow your heart even when you're afraid. Like she said, sometimes the hardest journey is the one toward yourself. Very profound. Thanks, great grandma. And Stevie's like, you're full of surprises. Do you know that? And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, horse whisperer, artist, poet, astronomer. What other secrets are you hiding? And June's like, more than I know what to do with. I'm like, is that hot? I would be scared if you said that to me in the middle of nowhere. And then don't worry, the air between them changed, charged with possibility and want, and something deeper than physical attraction. Perhaps you could explain it then. Like, isn't the point of writing to describe it to me? But we can't, so we just don't. Like, Stevie's like, I love how you see everything so deeply, notice things other people miss. And June's just like, no one's ever said that to me before. I'm like, yeah, because it seems like you're surrounded by a bunch of jackasses. So like, okay. She's like, you're extraordinary, June. Anyone who doesn't see that is missing out on something beautiful. All right. And she's like, Stevie. And then Stevie is like, can I kiss you? And June's like, please. And then they're kissing. And it's like a nervous, tentative kiss at first. And then June's lesbianism, because it's very clear to me she's a lesbian, but whatever, fires up finally after 3,000 years of being in slumber, all right? And they start full on making out, and they're both like, oh my god, oh. And I'm like, okay. And June's like, I never understood why people made such a big deal about kissing, but like this is, I'm like, you're a lesbian.
It's me. I'm the wee lesbian.
And Stevie's like, this is what it feels like when it's right, when you're kissing the right person. Maybe it's also the fact that you're a woman. Are we missing that part? Whatever. And she's like, is that what this is? You're my right person? And Stevie's like, I think so. I think you might be mine too. And they're smiling so big. Hooray. All those problems June was thinking about earlier still didn't go away. So they stay there for hours wrapped in the quilt, kissing and sharing whispered confessions. Do we get to see any of that? No. And then June says, I'm scared, and she's pretty much of like, how much I want this, how much I want you, like I've never felt anything like this before, and like a week ago I didn't even know you existed. And I'm like, yeah, that's why this is super alarming to me. Stevie's like, don't be scared, be brave with me. And June says, for the first time in my life, I want to be brave. I want something more than I want to be safe. I'm like, yes, we keep repeating things in our head and to each other, even though this is third person POV, so I don't understand why we're doing that. And then the last sentence is they found home in each other. Okay, if you say so. Chapter 9, June. June wakes up in her bed the next morning and everything's a bit better, but her lips are tender. How hard were you kissing each other? Were you taking chunks out? Like, what are we talking about? It reminds me of my favorite Locked Tomb fanfic where they're kissing for the first time ever, right? And Harrow and Gideon are already feral. So like partway through, Harrow just bites down, takes like a chunk out of Gideon's lip and then spits it on her face. And I'm like, that's what that makes me think of. A week ago, Stevie didn't exist in her world. Now she was her world. That should terrify her more than it did. But terror required doubt, and June had never been more certain of anything in her life. Again, you have known her for a singular week. I'm deeply concerned. You guys worry me. It's not like we're talking about middle schoolers, okay? So did that really happen? But don't worry, her body remembered, so okay. And she thinks that she's, you know, in her room. I kissed a woman. And we don't talk about I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. Katy Perry, what? We don't talk about I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, but we can talk about I Kissed a Girl by, what is her name? I think it's Jill something. Her last name is like Souble. It's good. That's what I gotta say. And she's just like, I'm not even that terrified. Like, I'm like touching my lips and remembering how great that was. It's fair. I will say there was such a stark difference for me where like I had my first kiss with my now ex. Her, but whatever. Sorry, I get to be bitter at least once a week. And I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be like. Holy shit. I was like, yeah, I thought so, but I kissed like 2 different boys and nothing. And there's a lot of like internal whinging about random shit. I don't know. I'm not gonna read it to you. But last night was perfect. It was amazing. I kissed a woman. I kissed Stevie. It's the most right thing I've ever done. She's walking toward the main lodge now, and Stevie's on the porch, and she's got 2 cups of coffee and a smile that makes June's knees go weak. Good for you. But are you sure it's just not from the sheer amount of times a horse has kicked you and that your knees aren't deteriorating? Let me know. They're like, morning, did you sleep okay? And June's like, about last night. And she's like, what about it? And she's like, did that really happen? She's like, it happened and it was beautiful. You were beautiful. Okay. What if I don't know what I'm doing? What if I'm terrified? What if I'm terrible at this? And she's like, at what? And she's like, I don't know what this makes me. She's like, it doesn't make you anything. It just has to make you happy. Does it make you happy? No. Okay, so if you don't like labels for yourself, that's fine. You don't have to use them. No one is forcing you. However, I hate when people who don't like labels force this upon other people. It might help June to know that she has a community of people like her and how to go about that. She might want to get in touch with lesbian culture, or if she's bisexual or pansexual, those cultures as well. She might want that. But you are saying that that doesn't matter. And I think that's really weird. I really don't like the gays that are very much like, I'm just a normal person and it's who I love and I want 2.5 kids in the house in the suburbs and blah, blah, blah. Like, good for you, but that doesn't make you special. It certainly doesn't make you subversive. So leave the rest of us alone. Okay? I hate this, like, I don't do labels. Okay? And she's just like, yeah, I think it makes me happy, but I've never, like, I dated guys before and it felt like, she's like, it felt like you were going through the motions. And she's like, yeah, exactly. And like, I was playing a role in someone else's life. And she's like, and last night I felt like my true self. Like, I've been sleepwalking my whole life and finally woke up. And Stevie's like, then be yourself with me. Girl, you're going back to wherever the hell you came from. I don't even know where you came from, to be honest with you. I don't think we ever go over it. Is she from the same state? Who knows? But they're looking at each other and then they kiss some more, and it's more claiming, which is something. And then they break apart and June is like, I want more. Stevie's like, are you sure? And she's like, I've never been more sure of anything. Like, can we meet after dinner, just us? And Stevie's like, where? And she's like, the old barn. It's quiet there in private. And Stevie's like, hey June, we don't have to rush into anything. If you don't want to, we don't have to. And I would be like, I am not having sex in a nasty old barn with you. Either come to my room or I come to yours. Those are the options, man. Like, not getting germs because you decided we should bang in an old barn. And then page break and we're in the old barn and we're gonna get straight to banging. And again, at least Stevie does care about consent. It's like, hey, we can go slow or we don't even have to, you know, like we don't have to. And June's like, I want to. I've been going slow my whole life. Careful, safe, enough of safe. I'm like, what is unsafe about two cis women banging in an old barn except for the potential germs that you're definitely gonna get? It's not like you're gonna get pregnant. Like, I mean, I guess you could get an STD. That's another thing to worry about. But like, I guess maybe this barn banging is life-threatening. I just don't understand the stakes, obviously. And then there's just, it's sex. You want to read the sex? You can read the book, okay? It's nothing revolutionary. It's nothing groundbreaking, I promise. After, Stevie is like, are you okay? And June's like, I'm whole. For the first time in my life, I feel whole. So I understand that realizing your identity can make you feel really whole, but like we're acting like sex is what made her feel whole instead. And I find that to be very shallow. What do I know? We're just laying together. She was like, I was scared that I was broken. And Stevie's like, broken how? And she's like, everyone else seemed to know what they wanted, who they were attracted to. It seemed so easy for them. I felt so empty. Like there was something completely wrong with me. Like I was missing some essential piece of being human. I feel like this is a very kind of disgusting sentiment because of asexual people. And I know that June, the character, might not be that in touch with the LGBT community. Obviously she's not, because look at her. But I find it deeply offensive to write it this way, because then she's like, you're not broken, you were just waiting. And I'm like, well, some people aren't just waiting. Asexual, aromantic people aren't just waiting. Like their lives have meaning too. Like this is a bunch of allosexual nonsense. I say as I'm allosexual, but hey, at least I'm honest about it. She's like, for what? For yourself, for this version of you, the real one, if you say so. And June's like, what happens when we leave? And she's like, we'll figure it out. She's like, but your school, your life. She's like, my life is wherever you are if you'll have me. And June's starting to get teary and she's like, my family will not understand. And Stevie's like, then we'll make them understand together. That's not how that works either, just so you know. Like, but you can tell that she's 22 and just barely graduating college. Like, your happiness matters more than their comfort. You matter more than their expectations. Yes, that's true. That should be just true, but that's not how straight people see these things. They think that their comfort and their happiness matter the most out of anything in the world, honestly. So like, why are we pretending that you can make people stop being selfish and only caring about themselves? It's not realistic. And then June says, I love you. I love you so much it terrifies me. And Stevie says, I love you too. And I have since the morning at the fence, I think. And I'm like, I don't want to be ableist, but is there any way to classify this as a mental disorder? Is there any way to classify insta-love as a mental health disorder? Or at least a genetic or hormonal disorder, right? Like, what are you talking about? But June thinks for the first time in her 25 years she was exactly where she belonged, if you say so. Chapter 10, Stevie, it's the next day. She wakes up before June does, but she doesn't mind because she gets to stare at her like she's a stalker, because she is. And Stevie's like, this is it, this is what I want to write songs about. Lesbian sex, or just reminds me of those terrible lesbian AI songs that were country songs that were coming out on TikTok. I obviously will not link to any of them because I hate AI and AI needs to die, but they actually were genuinely funny. And then June wakes up and she's like, what time is it? And she's like, well, it's very early. I've been thinking about like we snuck into the barn like teenagers. And June's like, yeah, it's really exciting. I rather like the hay. Stevie's like, it makes me itch. And I'm like, yes, because it's itchy. What if we went to your cabin instead? And June's like, now? And she's like, why not? It's dark. No one's around. June grins and she's like, you're mad, you know that? And I'm like, I don't feel like we use that much in the US overall, but okay. She's like, mad about you. I want to pluck out my eyeballs so I can no longer read. Thank you. But they're going. They sleep for a while longer, like in June's bed. And 2 hours ago, when Stevie wakes up, June's not there. And her pillow still held her scent. Something clean and earthy, like rain on summer grass. You say so. I feel like those are a lot of contradicting smells, but okay. But Stevie's stretching. And from the distance, she sees June at one of the barns with the goddamn horses and she's smiling, and she can see her even from a distance smiling. She's got that 20/20 vision, guys. She slips out of bed and she borrows one of June's flannel shirts that smells like hay and something uniquely June. See, you really can't explain what people smell like, and I find that deeply annoying. She's thinking about how her whole future shifted in a week. And she's like, here, but June, I can breathe. Yeah, you don't have any bills here right now, though. And what about your student loans, huh? What about those? Like maybe she could transfer to Colorado State and finish her degree while helping June with the ranch. Maybe they could build something together. Not just a relationship, but a life. A real one. One that mattered. I think it's an odd drive-by against people who have corporate jobs to say that their lives don't matter. Ooh. But don't worry, she's still thinking about June saying she loves her. Stevie overhears some other guests who we finally actually see because we've seen no guests. But Brenda from Chicago is gossiping and saying that she thinks it's rude that they haven't seen the owner's daughter in a whole week. And I'm like, why do people care about that? Explain it to me in the comments, because I wouldn't. I don't need to meet your kid. Like, and Chip's like, she's around. She's antisocial and keeps to herself and works like a ranch hand. And then this is where she finds out that the owner of the ranch is June's dad. I'm like, I thought that that was abundantly clear. What? And she's like, oh my God, they all knew. I'm like, yes, of course they do. You're the only one who didn't. You were too busy being a stalker to look up her actual information. Like, what? And she drops her coffee cup and it just like shatters. And Brenda's like, hey, are you all right? And she's like, yeah, I need to excuse me. I feel like this is ridiculous personally. Don't really remember this part of the book. I kept like tuning in and out while I was reading it simply because it was so boring overall. And so she goes to find June and she's like, Stevie, like I was hoping to see you. And she's like excited and she's like, were you ever gonna tell me? And she's like, tell you what? She's like, that you're Scott Hansen's daughter. Like, Scott Hansen. Okay. And June's just like, how did you? I'm like, why are we acting like this was a secret? Like, it wasn't. And she says, like, doesn't matter. You let me make a fool of myself. And June's like, I do not understand. I've been going on to people about this amazing ranch hand who taught me everything about horses, and they all knew. Stevie's voice rose with each word hurt and humiliation, making her chest tight. They all knew I was talking about the owner's daughter while I stood there like an idiot. And June's like, I never asked you to talk about me. And I'm like, I feel like that's fair. And also you listened to all the things June was saying and somehow tuned out the parts that, in my opinion, could have only come from someone related to the owner of this place. Whatever. And Stevie's like, that's not the point. She's like, you let me believe ... God, did you think this was funny? The city girl falling for the help? And June's like, it wasn't like that. I loved that you saw me for me, not my name or my family's ranch or any of that. I'm like, I got no indication during any of this goddamn book that we were hiding our parentage. Why is this now a stupid third act breakup that no one asked for? But you didn't trust me with the truth. Gosh, she's like, I was gonna tell you. I liked being seen as June, just June, not the rancher's daughter who's supposed to inherit all this someday. What else haven't you told me? And June's not saying anything for a little bit, and before she can say anything, her dad's here, Scott Hansen. He's like, what's going on here? And she's like, your daughter's been playing games, I guess. And June's like, Stevie, please. I refuse to believe that these are adults. And Scott's like, is this what I think it is? And June doesn't say anything. And he's just like, we'll talk about this later. Miss, I think you should pack. And June's like, Dad, no. And she's like, fine. I was leaving tomorrow anyway. And June's like, can you please let me explain? She's like, explain what? That none of this was real. That I was just your rebellion against Daddy's expectations. And June's like, you know that's not true. And she's like, crying now. And Stevie's like, do I? Because I don't know what's true anymore. And she's also really teary. And she turns away to walk away, even though they're calling after her. And then she's like, how could I be so wrong about the woman I loved? The woman who just whispered she loved me like hours ago. I'm like, because you didn't know her. You've known her for like, what, a week? Like, who are you talking to? She grabs her suitcase to throw a bunch of stuff in, and she's like, I'm going home. And she can hear through the window June is calling her name. She sounds really desperate, and it's tearing at Stevie's heart despite everything. It's just like not a big deal. Like, this is the one time I'm like, this is not a big deal. She's like, tomorrow can't come fast enough. And her mind is whispering in the back of her head, she loves you, you know she loves you. But she shoves that voice down and buries it because she feels betrayed. Love wasn't enough if it came wrapped in lies, was it? I'm like, it wasn't a lie. You never asked who her parents were. You never asked her relationship to the owner of this business. Shut your mouth. Chapter 11, June. June is very upset. Her dad is now berating her, being like, what were you thinking? And he's like, that girl's leaving tomorrow anyway, so. And something inside June finally snaps. And she's like, her name is Stevie. I'm like, why does that matter so much? She's like, but you'd know if you saw people instead of problems to manage. I'm like, okay, that might be a real bar. She kind of ate with that one. And he's just like, June, you barely know her. See, he's got me back on his side, the side of common sense. Like, I know her better than anyone ever has. That's a huge assumption. Like, your life sucks. That doesn't mean hers does. Like, and she knows me, the real me, not Scott Hansen's daughter, the future ranch owner, or whatever role you've decided I should play. Just me. I'm like, why are we acting like this is Britain in Regency era and she's going to inherit the duchy, the dukedom? Like, she's not. It's a horse ranch. And he's like, this is a phase and you'll get over it. Find a nice boy, settle down. And I'm like, okay, you lost me, Scott. You were having good reason. I knew the homophobia was going to happen, but still, like, I was waiting and you were coming in clutch for a second. And she's just like, no, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm not getting over something. I'm not settling. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm fighting for it, for her, for us.
You're throwing away your dream. No, Dad. Throwing away yours.
Scott's just staring at her and he's like, she's leaving. And June's like, then I'll give her a reason to stay. June is climbing off to the hayloft. All started in the hayloft, creeping. It all started in the hay. She goes to a trunk that's in the corner. It's covered with horse blankets and it's her mom's carefully preserved photographs. Her wedding dress is wrapped in tissue paper. There's a bracelet her grandmother had given her, and wrapped in a wool blanket is the old guitar she brought out earlier. And she thinks about Stevie and how her mom would love to hear Stevie play, if you say so. And then she sees something her mom wrote her, which is for June when you're ready to sing your own song, which is nice. And she's like, her mom had known somehow. I'm like, I think that might be a tad bit of a stretch, honey, but we'll let it slide. Okay. So she's taken her mom's guitar and it feels heavier than normal in her. Pulse is hammering around in there. And she's like, no, not this time. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. Not anymore. And she finds Stevie's journal, which had fallen behind the nightstand, I guess. And she finds the song about home and about searching for belonging. And she's gonna do some kind of performance that will not be as good as Heath Ledger's in 10 Things I Hate About You. But whatever. And she goes to Stevie's cabin and she sees that she looks very like angry and she's shaken with tears or whatever. And she's like, I did that. I hurt her. No, she hurt herself by being an ignoramus. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And June's like, what if this doesn't work? What if she's too hurt? I'm like, she fell in love with you in a week. I think she'll forgive you in a day. Like, I swear to God. But she remembers that Stevie had said, I love you too, blah, 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 blah. And she is playing Stevie's song and singing the words. And I'm like, we never really established that she can read music, so this is a little bit unrealistic. However, it's fine. And then the packing sounds stop during the song and Stevie stands in the doorway. Her face is streaked with tears. She looks shocked. And then June's voice is starting to crack a little bit. And June's like, hey, I wrote you into your own song because that's what you did to my life. You rewrote everything I thought I knew about myself. Made me brave enough to want things, to want you. She's just like, June. June's like, I was scared. Scared that if you knew who I really was, you'd see me differently. Everyone else always has. They see Scott Hansen's daughter, or the ranch heiress, or the girl who's supposed to marry some cowboy and pop out kids to carry on the family legacy. But you, ... you saw me, just me. And I was terrified if I told you the truth, I'd lose that. I'd lose you. I'm like, no, I think she was just stupid as hell. There was at no point any evidence. She was hiding being the owner's daughter. There was no evidence. This is a contrived third act breakup. It's stupid. Like, if they're going to be out of touch and insane because they fell into insta-love in like less than a week and confess that they love each other to each other in less than a week, allow them to be delusional and unhinged then. Allow them to be like, no, I don't care who your dad is. I'm gonna stand by you. I'm gonna stand by my man. Like, be like that, please. And Stevie says, I was hurt and I lashed out, but even feeling betrayed and angry, I couldn't stop loving you. I'm like, well, it just started up, so yeah. Although if it was me, I would just not do it, but okay. I don't care if you're the owner's daughter or the stable hand or the Queen of Montana. The Queen of Montana? Is her name Hannah by any chance? It's like, I care that you're the woman who taught me what home feels like, the woman who sees the soul in every horse, who reads poetry by the creek, who trusts me with her art and her dreams and her heart. And then they say they love each other again. Look, you don't have to repeat all the things we already went through. And also Scott is standing 10 feet away just watching this. And he's like trying to convince them now. He's like, hey, this isn't gonna work. He's like, I know he's a homophobe, but like his logistical reasons make sense. Because he's like, hey, she lives in the city. You belong here. You have responsibilities and a ranch to run. And June's like, then we'll make it work. Just like together. And if you can't accept that, if you can't accept her, then maybe it's time for me to find my own way. You can go your own way. And then she explains why Stevie is so great. I don't care. And then it's just the dad and the daughter staring at each other, and then Scott's shoulders sagged slightly and June saw something shift in his expression. Not quite acceptance, but maybe understanding. And he's like, we'll talk in the morning, all of us, okay? Like, because this is probably the craziest 24 hours of his life. And Stevie's like, are you sure about this? About us? About choosing this over your family's approval? It's not that hard in my experience. However, usually it also is accompanied by your family treats you like shit. So like it wasn't that hard for me to choose, but okay. And she's just like, I've never been more sure of anything in my life, because we have to repeat that over and over and over. And now they're holding hands and June feels free. Chapter 12, June. It's the following morning. She and Stevie were bunking together again. They say, good morning. They're like, whatever he says, I'm choosing you. I need you to know that. And Stevie's like, I know, but I have a feeling we might surprise him. Page break. Scott's waiting in his office and he's like, sit. We need to talk. And she's like, if you're going to try to convince me this is a phase again. And he's like, I'm not. Your mother used to look at me the way you look at her. I'd forgotten that until last night. I'm like, why are the men in these books always out of touch until one thing? And then they're like, I've decided to stop being a homophobe now. Hello? My family claimed that they still loved me and then continued to be homophobic for a long ass time. So whatever. I know my experience is not everyone's, but still. And he's like, watching you fight for this, it reminds me of your mom. And June's like, Mom would have liked Stevie. And he's just like, she would have loved anyone who made you this brave. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. And he's like, okay, but it doesn't change the practical problems. He's correct. And he's like, she lives in Denver, so they are in the same state. Okay, fine. And you belong here, and she has a life and career plans. And she's like, actually, I've been thinking about going to graduate school instead of a corporate job. Colorado State has an excellent sustainability program, and there are research opportunities in land management that align perfectly with what we're planning here. And Scott is just like looking at them like, okay, I didn't expect that. And June's like, and I've been thinking that I don't want to inherit a ranch that comes with conditions on who I love. And I'm like, you know, you can just say, I don't want the ranch. Like, and then they're just staring at each other and he's like, okay, so what are you proposing? And June is like, an equine assisted creative retreat. And he's like, a what? And she's like, we have been losing money on the cattle operation, which this is the first we're ever hearing about the cattle, by the way, for 3 years, apparently. And she's like, you know it, I know it. And I know you've been looking into other options, but you keep hoping cattle prices will turn around. And he doesn't deny it. And he's like, your mother loved this as like a working cattle ranch, which again, I thought this was a horse ranch. So I am confused. I know you can have both, but still. And he's just like, changing it feels, and June's like giving up on her memory, or like honoring what she really wanted, a place that helped people. And June is also like, the Dude Ranch brings in some revenue, but let's be honest, we're competing with luxury resorts that have spas and Wi-Fi that actually works. Like, we can't out luxury them, but we can offer something they can't. And he's like, which is? And she's like, transformation, real authentic transformation through connection with the land and animals. I've been researching this all night. It's like, creative retreats are booking at $2,000 per person per week. That's 4 times what we charge for regular Dude Ranch stays. And the overhead is actually lower. These guests don't expect luxury. They want authenticity. If you say so, I would not want to go to somebody's smelly ranch, personally. That's not true. I love cows. I didn't know there were cows, so how could I know that I wanted to go? And she's like, there's a place in Montana that is actually doing these like therapy retreats, and they're booked solid for 18 months, Dad. Like 18 months. And they don't have half of what we have, like the variety of terrain, the proximity to artistic communities in Santa Fe and Durango, the indigenous culture connections through Mom's family. I'm like, ow. Number one, I think it's weird that you said through Mom's family and not your family. That's a little weird. You're indigenous, theoretically. So whatever. And Stevie's like, they're already going to these places like in the middle of nowhere, and she lists some places that like people went to the middle of nowhere to do art. And June's like, plus mom always wanted to do something like this. Remember, she used to talk about having artist residencies, bringing culture to the ranch. And Scott's just like, she did love that idea. Like, okay. And June's like, we could name it after her. And June's getting really excited, and she's like, we could do sunrise yoga with the horses. I'm like, I'd rather do it with the cows personally, but whatever. Art therapy sessions in the barn loft, songwriting circles at the campfire, creative writing retreats for published and aspiring authors. And Stevie's like, I could do some creative workshops and like open mic night. I feel like we're trying to plan way too much at once, but it's what it is. And he's like, what about the cattle operation? And June's like, we keep it because this would like this would add additional revenue. It wouldn't be a replacement. So it's the best of both worlds. It's authentic working ranch experience with specialized creative programming. And he's like, okay, tell me about the horses. How does that part work? And he's like, she's excited because he's actually considering it. And she says that horses are mirrors. They reflect our emotional states back at us. If you're anxious, they're anxious. That's not how that works. People lie and say that about dogs all the time. That's not how that works. Dogs have their own feelings, and so do horses, obviously. Like, other animals don't have to take cues from us on how to feel. Like, it might help them calm down, might help them when they're anxious, but it does not work that way. Okay? Okay. And he's like, this might actually work. Like, all right, you really thought this through. And he's like, okay, I was wrong maybe about what you needed. Maybe what this ranch needs is exactly what you're proposing: innovation and new perspective and love. And she's like, Dad. And he's just like, what do you need from me to make this happen? I'm like, that's nice, Scott. She's like, your support and maybe help converting the old barn into a like proper venue. He's like, I think I can manage that. And she can't believe this because like he spent years pushing her towards safety, and he's just embraced her wildest dreams. Hooray. Chapter 13, still June. They hug, her and her dad, because, you know, and he says, I'm sorry, I was so afraid of losing you that I almost pushed you away. Like, okay, so you weren't a homophobe, or were you? Can you tell us? And she's like, I thought you'd never accept this except me. And he's like, you're my daughter. You're my brilliant, stubborn, incredible daughter. I'm like, okay. And if this makes you happy, then this is what we'll do. Stevie's watching them and she's crying. I'm like, okay, girl. Your stocking bore fruit for you, okay? Little page break. Scott has to go do stuff, so he leaves them alone. And Stevie's like, did that really just happen? And she's like, holy shit, like it did. Oh. And she's like, I can't believe he's actually excited about our idea though. I can't believe we don't have to choose between love and family. Yeah, I'm surprised too. And they're like, we need to celebrate. And celebrating obviously means banging. So they go back to the cabin and they're gonna do it, and they're whispering I love you and all that. And we don't really have to see much of it, thank God, so it's totally fine. And they end that part saying I love you again. And then it's page break, and a week later they're working on the summer pilot program with 6-week-long retreats to start to see how the market responds. And June's like, yeah, my dad's already talking about which pasture would work best for yoga sessions, and Tommy knows a carpenter who can help with the barn conversion. And she's just like, how does this feel? It's like everything finally makes sense. Yes, we know, thank you. And they're gonna live their authentic life, haha. And they're gonna need more staff is what they're saying. And then out the window there's a woman that June doesn't recognize who's the yoga instructor. I bet I know what the next book is about. She specializes in equine assisted mindfulness and centered riding. She's supposed to start next week for our pilot program. You guys know that horses are extremely anxious, unpredictable creatures, right? I wouldn't do yoga in the same 1 mile square radius as a horse. Like, I wouldn't. And Marissa, the other person who was mentioned briefly, keeps looking at that new instructor, and I'm like, yep, thank you for setting up for the new book instead of, I don't know, writing something meaningful at the end of this, but okay. I feel like if you're going to introduce characters that you're going to write a book about, they need to be more integrated into the plot so that I actually care. But they're laughing together in the corner, so. And there's going to be a new chef from Santa Fe, hooray, wants to revolutionize ranch cooking. All right, if you say so. And they're like, this is gonna be interesting. Yep, sure, okay. And they're just looking, they're happy, they've found their love, their home, their authentic selves. Yes, I know. Thank you for reiterating it again. Thank you. And they're just thinking about like the first morning where they met, which is not that long ago, realistically. I wanted to impress you even though you were grumpy. I'm like, okay. You would be trying to bang everyone in New England then. Like, damn. He wants it to be bedtime, but we are almost done. Okay, we're almost done. Hello, little hand. They say I love you again. And like, thank you for being brave when I couldn't be. For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. I was like, okay. Thank you for letting me in, for choosing us. Yes, okay, we get it. Thank you. And always, I'll always choose you.
I'll always hate you, bitch. Till the day I die. Always.
Always. But June didn't need to look at the stars anymore to find her way home. She'd found it in Stevie's eyes. The end. Conclusion, everybody. Okay, so we all know these kinds of books, they're just not for me. They're not. I don't enjoy insta-love. I don't enjoy short timelines in books. I don't enjoy things like that. But again, I buy books that are sapphic without reading the synopsis. So am I partially to blame? Perhaps. But I know you guys like my rant reviews, so who cares? You know? I gave this book 1 star. Like, was there anything super offensive about it? No. But like, that doesn't mean I enjoyed it. You know? Like, it was just fine. It was very repetitive. It was very lackluster overall. And I don't understand if the dad was homophobic or not in the end, honestly. Like, was it explained? Not really. What do you guys think about this book? Leave a horse or a cow or a cowboy hat emoji in the comments if you made it this far. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel. We're creeping toward the 500 that I need to have like memberships or whatever. Not that I'm pressuring you guys to get those or anything if I get there, but it just like to be transparent, you know? I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!